All right, welcome to another episode of the Freezin 4 NFC North Podcast, episode number 29, Week 1 review and Week 2 preview. Vikings conquer, Bears roar, Lions run, and Packers possibly a must-win versus the Bears. So lots to talk about. Lots of great action Week 1, and we are joined as actually pretty frequently here now by a guest, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm great this week. We kicked the Packers' ass. It's a week 1 win. So I'm good to go. I'm ready.
And keeping the Viking theme, we are joined by Wes. How are you doing, Wes Johnson?
Fantastic. Loving this win, riding it all the way into Monday.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about what you do again. You talked about it offline.
Yeah. I write a little bit for Vikings territory. Also do a whole NFL themed podcast called Trend Zone. Usually records Wednesday nights, and we push it out on Spotify on Thursday morning.
Awesome. Well, welcome. And also welcome again, Mr. Grubb. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be here. It was a little bit of a rough week, but kind of a little bit what I expected. But I'm here. I'm good.
You had a good week in your dynasty, blowing me out. So you had some great calls.
You had two goose eggs from players, so it's not that hard, man.
Pretty much. And we're going to be joined by another Bears guest here as well. Let's see, joining Adam. How are you doing?
Doing all right. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing well.
Great.
Tell us a little bit about what you do then. Oh, can you hear us?
Part of IE Sports Radio. We do live podcasts every week. We've got shows. I, of course, handle Chicago. I also do our hockey show. And then we've got New York, San Francisco, lots of other territories, regions, Detroit, places like that. And then also sport-specific shows, baseball, basketball, things like that. So I handle our Chicago show Monday nights at 7:00 Central Time. So Monday night show was understandably a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, welcome and to the Freezin 4 NFC North Podcast. We have a really jam-packed slate tonight. And we're also going to be joined here by Lane Hankins. How are you doing, Lane?
Hey guys, sorry I was a little late. I got caught up doing some stuff. We always do this at 9:30, so I wasn't expecting an actual 8:30.
Hey, that's all right. The Packers, the last couple seasons have been a little bit late to the party anyway, right?
That's right. I'm just following suit.
Well, welcome. So we'll just kind of get right out of the gate. One of the big matchups right away. Week 1, Vikings conquer the Packers 23-7 in a big Week 1 win. So, who wants to start? Do we want to go ahead and start with the victors? Do the victors go the spoils?
I'll let the new guest go first. Go ahead.
Is that to me?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so pretty surprising how quickly we jumped out on Green Bay. It could have been a lot different if Rodgers was able to connect with MVS 2.0 on that first pass. But we'll take the drops where we get them and, continue to play the game. And it was a fantastic opening day showing. I was a little concerned with, what it was we would see from both Donatel and Kevin O'Connell with the new systems being put into place, with the team not having the starters play really at all in the preseason. So didn't really know what to expect, and it was obviously a big game that we needed to come away with the victory in, and I'm happy that we did.
And it was a great, trend setter for the season for the Vikings. But when you look at the total performance, Dave, is there anything that you're worried about going forward?
Yeah, I mean it's still week one. Like it wasn't a perfect game. They probably need to be a little bit better in the red zone. We kicked a couple field goals. We maybe could have got some touchdowns. The defense, the corners still. I mean, if Green Bay had some actual receivers, it probably would have been a better game. I think. I mean Watson again, the first play of the game, it could have been a game changer. Um, but overall, I mean, you can't complain too much when your team beats your biggest rival pretty easily on opening weekend. Are there things that need to be better? Yeah, but you're gonna take it and move on to week two and get ready for Philly.
Dave, I'm a little bit offended when you said the Packers are your biggest rivalry.
I mean, is it supposed? Am I supposed to say Chicago?
Now they're going to say the Lions, actually. So
There you go. There you go. Our biggest rival is the playoffs, to be honest. So
that's true.
So Lane, from the Packers' point of view, what worries you most about this team going forward? And maybe is there something that you saw in that game that gives you a little bit of hope that maybe they'll conquer the Bears this week?
So, like I said, when we did our schedule release, when we were picking the games back and forth, I did kind of say this one could be a 50-50 back and forth game. Vikings came away with it. And kind of like what we saw last year when the Packers played the Saints, they just didn't show up really. So I think that's another example, again, of Matt LaFleur keeping everybody out in the preseason, not really working out. Because from what I saw, it looked like a lot of guys just didn't know what was going on because they hadn't played with each other. The chemistry wasn't there yet. And as the game progressed, it got a little bit better, but it wasn't quite there. I mean, you could see, especially with that defense that has been hyped up all offseason, all summer going into the year, they didn't really look that good in the first half. Second half, they looked a little bit better. They only gave up a couple field goals, but Justin Jefferson still had a hell of a game. Can't really do a whole lot when he's just running all over on you. So I think they'll get better as time goes on. This was just a bad opponent to start the year on, a divisional opponent, and one that's going to talk all year now because of it until the next meeting. And let me say, I've made a TikTok for this weekend because people love seeing what it's like doing the behind-the-scenes stuff and being down on the field. And there are so many Vikings fans just coming at me on that video now. Granted, I did say that the Skull chant was dumb and because it's stolen from Iceland's soccer team. And I said that the hype videos about how being cold in Minnesota and everything, ooh, tough Vikings when you play inside. So I had a little bit of it coming my way, I would say.
Did you get all the fake snow?
Yes, and the fake snow, and the fake snow. Yes, too much of the fake snow.
So, Lane, are you ready to, say that the Bears have a better wide receiving core now than the Packers yet?
See, I don't know about that yet. I'd say probably slightly more experienced, but I don't know about better because technically the Bears' number 2 receiver, Equanimeous St. Brown, couldn't even make it on the Packers roster. So what does that say for him?
Hey, didn't he have an awesome block? And he had a touchdown, right, in week 1. So I don't know. Maybe Justin Fields is better than Aaron Rodgers. I'm just saying, but I'm not saying.
We'll see if he can win the division. Then we can start making those claims.
So we look at when we talked about last week, this game and if like setting the tone and everything. And when you look at this game, I mean, is there a lot of concern that you start off with a loss, or is it just kind of like ho hum? Last year we did that too.
I think the big feeling with everybody, fans, players, everything is it's happened before, and it's week 1. We have 16 games to go. This was just one bump in the road along the way. That's kind of the feeling that everybody has. But if things go bad Sunday night and they start the season 0-2, and then somehow, I don't see it happening, but it could, and then going down to Tampa to visit Tom Brady, potentially going 0-3, then something's wrong. But for right now, everybody's just feeling, okay, it was one bump in the road. This happened last year, and we still went 13-4.
That's possible. Well, when you look at it, you talked about the next game versus the Bears, and with that, Adam, before we get to that, what did you see from Fields that you liked? In that just sloppy mess of a game, what did you like from him, and what did you like from the Bears in Week 1?
Well, yeah, that field. Oh my gosh, you want to talk about not ideal conditions to play a football game in? But the first thing that comes to mind is the 51-yard pass to Dante Pettis, and that is the kind of play right there that makes any fan giddy with excitement. And I am admittedly very high on Justin Fields. I've been high on him before he was a Bears quarterback. So that's the perspective I come with. So to just see that play, it's just like right there. That's why you go up and get a guy like that, because he can make plays like that right there, making chicken salad out of chicken, breaking out of the pocket, keeping his eyes downfield, finding the open receiver, and there's the touchdown there out of a horrible broken play. Overall, the numbers were bad for the game. Less than 50% of his passes completed, only 120 yards for the game. But the second half was so much significantly better, and he guided the team to victory. And Equimenius St. Brown, yeah, he may have been 6th on the Packers depth chart and all those kinds of things, but he's got the win in Week 1. He's got the touchdown catch. Watson had one land in his lap, and not a great way to start the season. And Rodgers apparently is the kind of quarterback that as soon as you make a mistake, it's like, well, you may as well just not play. You may as well just stay on the sideline the whole rest of the game, because unless you are wide open, he is, and everybody else is in quadruple coverage, he's not coming to you ever again. So you've got that situation too. I'm curious now, Lane, going into this game, obviously the situation's not right. You're 0-1. You would have loved to win last week. Is this in the past, the Bears always feel like they're the get right opponent when the Packers get off to their sluggish starts, and they seem to get off to sluggish starts. It sometimes takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks before they then kick it into high gear and look out. Is this a get right game, or is this still, oh man, they're sluggish. They need another 2-3 weeks yet. Where are they at with the development? How soon before he starts spelling relax again?
Hopefully he doesn't have to spell relax again and they get things figured out. You're right about the receivers, though. There was several times later in the game where Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs were open on routes, and he was forcing it to Robert Tonyan. Like 4th and 1 on the Vikings, 15-yard line. They needed 1 yard, and he was taking a shot at the end zone on 4th down. So they need to get it figured out with the receivers, and they will. It's just taking time. And like I said, with not playing in the preseason, I think that's a huge chemistry thing that they have going on right now, is just trying to get everything to mesh together properly, at least in Rodgers' opinion. So hopefully the Bears game can be a get-right game for them, but I think they're still going to struggle a little bit in this one, at least at first, but I think they will be able to get things rolling. I think the defense will be able to show up and early and often in this game for the Packers, hopefully.
Well, that was one of the points I wondered. One of the keys, the Bears' offensive line. Obviously, we were on another podcast together, Adam. Prior to the 49ers game, and very worried about the Bears' offensive line. Did they show you anything in that game that might give you hope versus the Packers' defensive line in this game?
Well, Tevin Jenkins is a monster. First of all, my God, what a beast! If he stays, they found some magic juju with him, kicking him into guard. I didn't like that he and Lucas Patrick were getting rotated. Hopefully that's something that stops. I would prefer that Lucas Patrick take over at center for Sam Mustipher. I'm not a big Sam Mustipher fan. I did hear the point, though, that he is the only center that Justin Fields has ever known. And there is some merit to that because that exchange is so important that you should probably get Justin's opinion on that too. Would that be bad for him to make a switch to Lucas Patrick, or is he okay moving to that? But if Fields is okay with that, man, I'd like to see Lucas Patrick at center and then Tevin Jenkins at guard and leave it that way. Braxton Jones looked like a 5th round rookie at times going up against Bosa. He gave up a couple sacks. He gave up some pressures. There's still that feeling in time of any time it was like a 5 or a 7 step drop. It was, oh boy, here we go. Can the pocket hold up? Oh, nope. Oh boy, there we go. So hopefully we see in the play calling a little bit more of the rollouts, a little bit more of the things to help out the offensive line. Because while they did overall better than maybe I would have expected, they still C+, room for improvement, kind of a great exceeded expectations, still room for improvement. If you can have both things at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game this versus the Packers as well, because I believe there's going to be some rain, 60% chance of rain. I don't know how that works in the forecast as well, right?
Oh, Lane? No, again?
I haven't looked. I'm really hoping not. I hate rain games, especially being down there on the field. It's terrible. It's the worst. I'd rather take 2 feet of snow than any rain. But
yeah, I can
give you guys a little weather forecast if you'd like.
Just so long as they're not putting in new turf like today or something.
That was just a mess.
No. 60% chance of thunderstorms Sunday.
Well, let's hope it's not, during the game. And when you look at that, then, on the Packers defensive line, do they have enough, the guys to really provide pressure to Justin Fields and kind of make him uncomfortable in that in the game?
Yeah, that was one of the emphasis of the offseason, was to not only retain that defensive line by re-signing Dean Lowry, but also have enough guys to be able to rotate in and out and have a constant pressure coming on. So they drafted Devontae Wyatt in the first round, as well as signing free agent Jaron Reed away from Washington. So now they've got a good rotation of guys in that front 7, including those outside linebackers and even the inside linebackers, if you want to include them. I know Chris Barnes got hurt in the game against Minnesota and he's out, but Quay Walker, the rookie, the other first-round rookie, should be back in action, and he was flying all over the field on Sunday. So that's just another one to add to the list of guys that could be getting after that Bears defense. And hopefully that with this rain coming, that limits their passing game like it did against the Niners, and they can just stack the box and get after them.
Well, and Mooney is, and I'm not sure quite where you are on Mooney, Adam. Mooney is an amazing talent. I think he has the potential to be that number 1 guy, but obviously he's not Justin Jefferson. I mean, the Vikings guys, you guys could definitely say, Mooney's not Jefferson, right?
I mean, who is? Let's be real. Let's be honest. He's the best player in the league that's not a quarterback. I'm sorry. I'll stand by that. He's the best player in the league that's not a quarterback. Maybe it's just some defensive guys you can put up there with him, like Darnold, but I think he's the best offensive player that's not a quarterback.
So what do we see? Like, what does Mooney have to do to, maybe have a big game against this Packers secondary? Because supposedly it was supposed to be an improved Packers secondary, but was it just because it was Jefferson, do you think, Lane?
I think that was a huge part of it. Another part of it being trying to just figure out how all these pieces work. Because last year, if you guys remember, Jair Alexander got hurt in week 4 and was out for the entirety of the season up until the playoff game. And he didn't even play a whole lot in the playoff game. So now it's trying to figure out a balance of rotating those corners between Jair, Rasul Douglas, and Eric Stokes. And so far, especially in the Minnesota game, Stokes has been the one that's not holding up his end of the bargain. But the safeties are also kind of a concern right now, too, because they've had so many injuries at safety throughout the offseason. They haven't gotten a whole lot of time to play together. Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage are the two starters, and Savage was hurt pretty much the entire offseason. He got hurt first week or two of camp and didn't play at all in the preseason, so he's still kind of getting back into things. And then after those two, they have – I honestly don't even know what they have, because it's just been kind of a rotation of guys. They just signed another guy to the practice squad that's a safety today. So safety is definitely a spot that's taken a hit this year for the Packers. But for Darnell Mooney, I'd say line up against Eric Stokes and try to attack the safeties, because that'll be your best bet, is what it's looking like based on last week at least.
And is Velus going to play? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Adam. Yeah.
I just saw a report today that Velus did practice today, so he's potential to make his debut. Speed. To answer the question though, the way you want to, I would feel you'd want to attack this, and what Mooney and Velus can do in this is they can get to that third level of the defense, get to the corners and to the safeties very quickly, and force them to have to commit one way or the other very, very quickly. As far as Justin Jefferson, yeah, I mean, if he's not the top wide receiver in the game, I mean, you're talking Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson, and then a huge drop in wide receiver talent from there. So yeah, to draw that as your first assignment, Jefferson's going to make any secondary look bad on a weekly basis. So yeah, I got no problem saying that Jefferson contributed to the Packers secondary looking bad. I like Mooney. I do feel that Darnell Mooney can be a contributor on a playoff team, on a championship team. I'm not convinced yet that he can be a one, that he can be a guy that defensive coordinators have to, when you're making your game prep every week, okay, how do we stop number 11? How do we make sure that Mooney does not beat us? I'm not convinced yet that he can be that kind of a receiver. I still feel like his best use is as a 2 or even as a third wide receiver in a top flight offense. But I like him. He's somebody to keep for sure.
Well, that's what I was wondering, watching the 49ers Bears game, and just part of it was, as far as what they were doing offensively, and just early on, it seemed like the Niners were being more innovative with their offense and just kind of moving Debo and really they had all the momentum right away. And so I'd like to see the Bears, especially in this game with Luke Getsy, really just kind of like throw everything out there and just kind of see, what, I mean, this would be when I look at this game, I don't expect the Bears to win, right? But if the Bears did win, this would be a statement to say, okay, hey, we're a little bit ahead of schedule in I don't want to say rebuilding, but it is rebuilding. I mean, you beat Packers at Lambeau. That's just, I mean, that doesn't happen for the Bears at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's what, 4 wins in the last 13 years in this rivalry. It doesn't happen often. But yeah, you win this game, you're 2-0, and then you've got Houston and the Giants next on your schedule. You are looking at a strong start to the season, certainly an outstanding statement to start the year. A lot of what the Niners were doing with Debo, a lot of that's Kyle Shanahan, right? A lot of that's the very creative, innovative West Coast concepts with a twist. That we see with Sean McVay and guys like that. I don't necessarily know that the Bears need to necessarily get cute with the offense. But just, I would say the first thing is to get Justin as comfortable as possible. And I think the way to do that is to move him. Roll the pocket to either the left or the right, get him on the move a little bit, cut the field in half, he wants to look deep, which is great. He constantly is keeping his eyes downfield to take that big shot. So give him a high read and then a low read, but get him on the move a little bit. Don't try to force it to be too complicated. Not that he can't handle a complicated offense, but that might not be where you need to be yet with the talent that you have and the state of the offense right now. Keep it simple. Don't turn the ball over and don't make penalties. That was one of the huge things from the game Sunday against the Niners. That was actually the thing that impressed me the most about the win was only 3 penalties for the entire game and none in the second half. And one of them was the 15 yards for wiping the towel on the field that nobody knew was a rule until Trenner Gill had his welcome to the NFL rookie moment, of trying to soak up the monsoon with a towel there. That was the most impressive thing to me, was only 3 penalties in the entire game. If you do that, if you replicate that, only 1 turnover and only 3 penalties, you're going to be in this game. You're going to be in the spread right now is Packers 10. If they come out and don't turn the ball over and don't commit penalties, they're not going to lose by double digits. They will be in the game. They might not win it, but they'll make it respectable. They'll make it close.
And Grubb, you've talked about Justin Fields as well. I mean, did you see kind of enough from Fields when you were watching the game?
Well, I mean, it's the beginning of the season, right? And it's a sloppy field. So I don't know, to judge off of this, plus the field they're already playing on, even when it's in good shape, it's really in shitty shape. So, does that affect a lot of play? But he made some play. I tell you what he did, and where I told you guys before about Trey Lance coming into the beginning of the season. Okay, he's young. It's going to take some time. Fields made some plays when it mattered to make some plays. And that's what you have to do in the NFL, a quarterback in a sloppy game. So I think you see something positive there, right? You can't say, oh, he just totally sucked. Now, was it some dominant performance? No, but he did the things that needed to be done in important moments. And that's what you start to look for from quarterbacks, especially young guys. Can they step up? And he did some of that during this game. He made some big throws. We're talking about 51-yard. He made some plays happen, right? So he did enough to win that game. And that's one of those games where you just have to do enough. And you can't be the guy who throws the important interception at the wrong time or fumbles the ball or those type of things in that type of game. And he did his best not to do any of that, which was good. That was one of his challenges last season, right? So he looked good as far as what he needed to do in that game. I think that's too tough of a game. Even on Trey Lance, people I think are a little harder on him. But I saw that come. I've talked about it before on the show. I thought Trey Lance was going to struggle out of the season. I didn't think he was going to. This kid hasn't been in this environment yet, right? So, tough game to judge either quarterback on and say, one's boom and one's bust. But Fields did make the plays when it mattered.
Well, speaking of kind of what matters for this Bears and Packers game, the running game is going to be very important as well. Lane, do you see like Aaron Jones having a big game? I mean, he's, I don't know. I mean, obviously that will help, just kind of you'll be able to spread the field for the wide receivers and everything. Do you see this being important?
Oh, most definitely. That was a huge thing that LaFleur was talking about post-game, was that we didn't get A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones enough touches in this game. Combined, they only had 23 touches the whole game. And they had good opportunities. The very first run by Aaron Jones went 10 yards. And they kind of abandoned it once they started to get rolling a little bit. Then they just go strictly pass game, which this offense is not going to allow that yet when you're still trying to build a repertoire with your new receivers. And that was something they had talked about all offseason too, was we're going to have to be a run-heavy team this year. And they didn't really stick to that in the opening game. So as much as as LaFleur talked about it after the game, let's hope that he sticks to that, because if it's a rainy game where you're going to have to run the ball a lot, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon can be very dangerous, and that good 1-2 punch of all the speed and shiftiness with Aaron Jones and then all the power in the bowling ball that is A.J. Dillon.
So let's just go around. We don't have to do scores or anything, but who does everyone have winning this game? Lane, who do you have winning this game?
I think this is going to be a get-right game for the Packers. It's not going to be a blowout, but I think it'll probably be right around 32-24 Packers.
Adam, what about you?
Oof, that's a lot of points.
With the rain, it might
That's
cut
a
it back,
lot
but
of
that's what
points.
I'm going with now.
Yeah. With the rain, it definitely would cut it back, especially if the Packers decide to keep throwing the ball despite the rain. That'll cut it down. I so want to say Bears because everything in me never wants to pick the Packers, but head has to win out here. Probably looking Packers 23, Bears 16-17, probably in that neighborhood, in that range.
I'll say
I do think the Packers -10 is BS.
Yeah. I'll say just because I want to, I'll say Bears 14, Packers 13. Dave, what do you got?
I unfortunately probably going to go with the Packers. I didn't think that the spread was 10. That's a lot, seemed to me. I'm with I'm sorry, I forget your name. Adam, I think. I think lower scoring, 21, 23 to 17, 16, 14, something like that. So that's what I think.
Wes, who you got?
I have Green Bay as well. Probably 20 to 17, some in that range.
Absolutely. And Grubb?
Man, this was to me toss up, but because it's on the road. That's the only look. I think the Packers with no fandom, I think they looked not very good. I really don't on either side of the ball. So they can pretend that they did a little bit. And there was some things to be happy about, but I don't know if I was a Packers fan, I would be a little worried about a lot of what I saw, regardless of first game or not. So I think this is going to be really close, man. I think I'll go with I'll go with a 24-21 score, and I'll give it to the Packers just because it's in Lambeau. But I actually think it could actually end up the other way. I really do. I think it could end up the other way, but I just because it's Lambeau, I'm giving them that 3 points at Lambeau.
I could definitely see that. In going on to another important game in division with the Vikings, obviously not interdivision, but the Vikings, with the big win versus Packers, have another tough game versus the Eagles. So what do we see, some of the keys, on this, Wes? What do you see for keys versus the Eagles?
Stopping the run. That's probably the primary focus of the defense. The addition of A.J. Brown to this offense makes it a lot more dynamic. But Jalen Hurts, I believe he wants to run first. And I think from the game last week, they had 3 or 4 different guys get touchdowns on the ground, which is pretty surprising. So run defense will be key to this game. I think the offense will continue to shine. The Eagles do have a solid defense that's stacked at all levels, and it could pose a problem. But at the same time, Green Bay had, what I think of as a pretty stacked defense. I mean, they've spent the last few years in the draft building on that side of the ball. So I like what I saw from the Kevin O'Connell offense week 1. I think there's going to be something even more special in store for Justin Jefferson in a primetime game. He's going to give the people what they came to see. So keeping the ball away from Philly, stopping the run, and then turnovers. Just thinking back to 2017, turnovers is what really turned that playoff game around in Philly. It's going to be rowdy and raucous, and batteries being thrown at Santa, even though it's not Christmas. So just it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. I really like Philly coming out of the NFC East. So this will be a good test for Minnesota.
What about you, Dave?
I agree with everything you said. I think the run game, I mean, the Packers had a chance they were running decent. I think they should have done that more, to be honest. And then they got away from that against us. So I think we definitely need to watch the run. Obviously, Hurts is a problem with his legs. And A.J. Brown, I worry about him against our corners. You know, they're young. I mean, Peterson's older, but he's not as fast. So I hope they can hold up. I agree completely. I think the offense is going to keep doing their thing. So if as long as we can slow them down, they got a good offense. You know, it's gonna be a good game. I think it's gonna be a lot closer. You know, a lot tougher than the Packers game, just because I think the Eagles bring a little bit more to the table offensively right now than the Packers did. So I'm excited. I think we can win it. I think we will win it, but I think it's gonna be a tough one.
That Watson, that drop was versus Peterson, wasn't it?
I
Yes.
believe it's Peterson. Yeah.
So yeah, A.J. Brown's not dropping that.
No, of course not. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, Grubb, you had a chance, you know, to see, you know, this Philly offense versus the Lions. I mean, what do you see, you know, being important for this game?
Well, the Lions played super aggressive, okay, and that they gave their blueprint for what they're going to do for the season, which is they're going to blitz and they're going to play bump man. Okay, if they did that against the Eagles, that's their plan for the year. And you know, I don't think I think that cost the Lions in a lot of situations. They played a dangerous game. If you don't keep Hurts in the pocket, and early on the DNs were getting too up the field. And letting Hurts kind of step up through some gaps there and have some easy scramble lanes. And that really hurt them. So the Lions, you know, the Vikings are going to have this chance to watch some film on that and see that the reason the Lions, because it got away from them, like I talked about, I thought it would last week, but then they came back. And the reason that is because they stopped giving up those outside lanes for him to rush. And when they did that and they pressured him up the gut and they contained him from scrambling out of the pocket, they did good. So I think the Vikings are going to have some good game film of what happened because you had the tale of two tapes. What he can do with A.J. Brown was very apparent. But if you look at what Amon-Ra St. Brown did to the Eagles secondary and that type of game plan, Justin Jefferson may be on set for another, giant day because they couldn't contain St. Brown in that same type of, they move him all over the field like they were doing Jefferson in this last game. So I think that's going to be dangerous against Philly because I think the Vikings will have something there with obviously St. Brown is not Justin Jefferson at this point. So I think it's going to be, I think after looking at that defense and watching how Philly played, they played a lot of drop zone and doing some things to try and fool Goff in the zone. Do they come at Kirk Cousins that way or do they pressure Cousins? So we'll see. I think Justin Jefferson has a big game again this week.
And then on the defense for the Vikings, I mean, and maybe I'm going to offend you a little bit, Lane, here, but was it the Packers offense just that bad, or is the Vikings defense like that much improved?
I'll give it to the Vikings defense. They're definitely improved in that front seven. And like we had said before, Zadarius Smith definitely showed up in that game in a big way. Now, I will say a lot of his pregame stuff where he was talking about how things went down and whatever, I think that was just a lot of media talk because he was pregame hugging some of the Packers players. But he showed up in a big way and was very disruptive. So I could see him making Jalen Hurts run around quite a bit, him and Danielle Hunter.
Is that what you're kind of seeing too, Wes?
Yeah. That defensive front seven with Hunter back healthy, that's a huge thing for Minnesota. And then Zadarius Smith on the other side, bookending. It's meat at the quarterback, and also the defensive tackles. We didn't get much pressure last year with Michael Pierce having Harrison Phillips and Dalvin Tomlinson in there. they were able to wreak havoc on the interior as well. There was a few stunts that Donatel had ran out that was able to create pressure early. Rodgers was under duress for a large majority of that game with 4 or 5 man rushers, which it helps the back end.
So who do you got winning? Wes, definitely the Vikings.
It's tough. I want to say the Vikings, but this is just a classic game for Minnesota to go in and just come up just short. I think their record on Monday Night Football going back, 10, 20 years is pretty bleak. Or playing Monday Night Football on the road at that, I think their only victory, I think they have 2 victories in that time span over the last 20 years, and I believe they're both against Chicago, which on the road is surprising because out of all the NFC North teams, I've been to more Chicago games, Chicago-Minnesota games, than I have any other games. I've been to Soldier Field so many times, I'm sick of it because every time we go into Soldier Field, we wind up losing. I went from 2010 to 2018 pretty consistently, and I think out of that time frame, we only had 1 victory in Chicago. So.
Well, and I can attest to that because actually my son was born during that Monday Night Football game where the Bears won, and I was actually living in Minnesota at that time. So I was in the delivery room cheering for the Bears with a bunch of Vikings fans, including a Viking doctor. So it was a little bit hairy with that. So who do you have winning, Dave?
I'm going with the Vikings. It's a new era. If you believe that they're going to be good, then you believe they're going to win this game. I mean, I'm not nearly as confident as I was last week. I think it's going to be a really good game, but I think that this is a different team than in previous years. So I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game, 31-28, something like that. But I think the Vikings win it.
Grubb, who you got?
I'm actually really stunned that both Vikings fans chose the Vikings. But yeah, no, I actually think the Vikings have this, but I'm going to tell you this. I think it's whoever scores 40 points is going to win this game. And I'm not joking. I think after a while, again, the Lions and Eagles just went 38-35. I think who scores 40 points in this game wins this football game. I just think it's going to be a track meet. I think both defenses are good, but I just think these weapons on both offenses are better. And I think it's going to be a track meet. I think whoever gets to 40 and can hold it there for at the end of the game is going to be the winner. But I'm going to go Vikings, so I'll say 41-37.
Very nice. Lane, who you got?
Well, we saw the Packers have success against the Vikings in the run game, and we know the Eagles are going to run the ball a lot. They were the top rushing offense in the league last year, and now everybody's healthy for them. So I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means, and this is not out of spite because of what happened this last week, but I think the Eagles are going to win this one, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than we think. So I'm thinking like a 32-28 maybe with I think, didn't I say that for the Bears, or a little bit more for the Bears, or less for the Bears, I should say, but similar high scoring game, but that new look Vikings offense is definitely going to appear and score a lot of points in this one too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Adam, who do you got?
Well, this is Monday night in Philly. I do not trust Kirk Cousins. I just don't. So I will give the edge to the Eagles. It'll be close. It'll be good. Let's say 38-33, but going Philly. I just don't. I've seen Kirk Cousins choke at the end too many times.
It's funny. So the whole top row is going with the Vikings, and the whole bottom row is going with the Eagles. I do like the Vikings.
Well, it's better to be on top.
Might be. I do like the Vikings, but I just like you know me, Grubb. I'm all in on my guy Jalen Hurts for the MVP.
I know, but
this
you're
year.
also all in on the Vikings to win the division. So make up your mind.
Well, division is different than the better team, overall. So I do like the Eagles.
So
So
if
I'm
the
gonna
Eagles are in the division, they'd win the division.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Oh, absolutely. It would
I'll
be
remember
close.
this next week. I'll remember this
Shots
next
fired.
Let's do it. You keep a receipt. So yeah, I am
That's
going
right.
Eagles. I think it's going to be definitely a high scoring game as well. But yeah, all great points by everybody. And I feel like we don't always give the Lions their
Yeah,
the
I always
credit.
get a few minutes. It's okay.
Absolutely. Well,
That's why I bring a beer.
Well, and here is a crazy stat that I found that I heard. So the Lions play the Commanders this week, and they are actually favored for the first time
First
since
time.
November 22nd, 2020, versus the Panthers on the road against that Panther team, quarterbacked by PJ Walker.
I mean,
Who?
That's crazy. Exactly. Who? PJ Walker.
well,
XFL star.
but now
Yes.
we're playing the Commanders that are with Carson Wentz, so it's just slightly above PJ Walker. So,
Although fantasy-wise, all the analysts are saying pick him up on your waiver wire.
who's
He's a
that,
good
Wentz?
pickup. He's a good pickup.
What?
Here's
Wentz?
the deal with
Wentz, yeah.
this week.
Yeah. Well, it's because they're going to be down.
Yeah.
probably true.
That's right. He's got to throw the whole game. But yeah, what's going to happen? I mean, this game is about blitzing. So again, and pressure and man coverage, and where this is a matchup game. And like I said, we watched this last week. The Lions are going to play. Well, if they're going to play bump man press and all this on Devonta Smith and AJ Brown, they're going to do it against just about everybody, right? So they're going to come out this week, and these Washington Redskins receivers are going to get pressed, and Carson Wentz is going to get blitzed. And we've seen Carson Wentz under pressure. He throws touchdowns to the other team literally in his own end zone. So I think this is actually a good game for the Lions. I think they get back to being even here early in the season. I talked about this before the season. I thought this was definitely a game that they could have in the bag. And watching out what they did in the first game against the Eagles, did they lose? Yes, but they played a game. Like I said, they gave themselves a chance at the end. They had two chances, a 3rd and 1 and a 4th and 1 to stop, or 2 3rd and 1s and a 4th and 1 to stop the Eagles and get the ball back and have a chance to tie or win the game. And I think this week, the Commanders are going to come in and, they're going to try to pass the ball. And I know, the Lions, it's a different atmosphere than, how it was this last week. Everybody was pumped in Detroit. But I just think that Carson Wentz, he's just really not in a matchup game. Carson Wentz can play good against, these defenses that play a lot of drop zones and these things like that. But when he is pressured and he plays these pressure defenses, he really struggles. I think the Lions have a good chance this week.
Well, yeah, and you look at it. So obviously the Lions, linebackers, that's going to be a key, versus Antonio Gibson. I have here, and I just don't know what to think about Antonio Gibson, right? He's kind of the fantasy football darling or whatever, and I don't know. What do you see, Adam? What do you think? What do you think of Antonio Gibson, Adam?
Well, for the Lions overall, this is a matchup that should play to their strengths, right? This is a matchup that should go well. For Antonio Gibson specifically, I'm kind of confused too with it. It's that whole looks good on paper, but it doesn't always translate to the tape. It doesn't always translate to the film that you actually see out on the field on Sundays. So it's you got to get the actual production there.
Well, speaking of production, we got Aiden Hutchinson, but the Bears also had a defensive lineman that graded out, I believe, better than Aiden Hutchinson. And who was that again, Adam? I'll let you say the name.
That was Dominique Robinson.
Yes, it was.
My project guy that I'm so excited to watch. I'm sorry. I'm going to geek for 5 seconds here, and then I'll give it back. A wide receiver in college is playing defensive end in the NFL. I've never seen this before, and he looked amazing on Sunday. It was so cool. 7 tackles, a tackle for a loss, and 1.5 sacks. That's just whoa, that was so cool. So yeah, I was going to ask though about Aiden Hutchinson. How did he look last week? You know, huge hype for him coming in. How did he look? He didn't have the numbers, obviously. Did he look the part?
I mean, he played like a rookie, right? So a talented rookie. So he made some plays. He forced some pressure, but he made some mistakes too. He's part of the reason that Hurts would get loose, pushing up the field too far and breaking that pocket. And, you know, he made some rookie plays, but he plays his ass off and he plays fast in every play. So you're going to get that from him. He looks the part as far as going to be somebody who's dominant in the future, but he also looks the part as a guy who played his first NFL game. And for a lot of these guys, you know, they get used to dominating, even if they play at a high level in college, right? They still get used to kind of dominating most of their weeks. And then there are some weeks where they play some other NFL caliber players and there's a little bit more of a challenge. I think this week he learned what the NFL is all about. He looked fast, he looked good, but he looked like there was a few times he got himself in bad positions, but he looks good. There's a reason he's drafted where he was drafted, and he's got a lot. He's got that. What Dan Campbell's looking for is what's great. He's got that mentality. He's going to play fast and play hard and not give up. And it doesn't matter if they're behind. Like this game, they got behind, right, 38-21. But they all kept playing, and that's what Hutchinson did. He was part of that, but he made some rookie mistakes that cost them some plays in this game, giving up some especially giving up those lanes for Hurts to run through.
When you look at kind of the overall talent of the Lions, it's weird to compare to another team and say, wow, the Lions have more talent than this team. But when you look at Washington's roster, especially with the injuries, the Lions have more talent than Washington, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, in this instance, you could say yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's the Lions, though, for a lot of their lifespan, especially over the last 20 years, should have talent. They've had a lot of early draft picks. And, you know, the sad thing is it's never meshed. And can this be the time that it meshes? So the talent is there. Do they have, you know, I don't know. Again, you know me, I'm so skeptical on all that. I think the NFL is a very up and down week because they're all very amazing, talented people. I don't give a crap if they're a left tackle or these dudes are the best of the best. So the Commanders may come out this week and they have that game for them where they play that way. So is there more talent? Yes. Again, like we just talked about, Adam was saying about Gibson. I mean, so everything's paper and everything's on paper. Everything looks good on paper, but the field is where you tell the difference. And I think the Lions have a chance to be good and fast, but they're young. So,
Lane, is there anything going from this week from the Lions that you may see and be like, okay, well, I'm worried as a Packer fan when we face them?
What I saw from the highlights, at least, because I was busy doing other Packers-related things at the time, but it looks like Detroit has a lot of confidence going into this season. And that's one thing that I think they've lacked the past few years is just the confidence to be able to get out there and perform with these other teams, whether or not it's an 8-8 level team or a 13-3 level team. It looks like they now have the confidence to go out there and say, yeah, we can play with these guys. And so that's the one thing that, as another member of the division, I'm looking at going, okay, Detroit's starting to get something going here.
Well, that's halfway through the season last year. You could start to see that change and that turnover. They started to play for Dan Campbell. Like they started to buy in. And once they start buying into a coach, it doesn't matter what system you have. They once they buy into the coach, you got an NFL team, you got these grown men buying into that coach. You got something there. You look at all of them. It doesn't matter. Championship years of every NFL team, a team bought into the coach, right? The Bengals last year were written off months before the season started. Nobody even talked about them because the season was getting closer. Like they were literally written off after the draft of last season. They went to the Super Bowl. Like but they bought into their system and their coach. And so you see that now with Campbell, and they started that halfway through last season.
And when you look at the talent as well, I mean, obviously, I'm on Ross St. Brown, but, DJ Chark is going to be an interesting, player going forward as well, for the team. And then Jamison Williams coming back. And so, when you look at what the Lions have, and they may have to really, score a ton of points to even, stay in games.
Yes.
But
that's, in this game, that cost them. Okay. Mm-hmm. I know most guys probably don't see the whole game. Of the Lions. So there was a ton of drops. St. Brown had drops. Chark, I think, had 4 drops, like, in the game. Like, there was drops. There was a lot of drop footballs by Detroit wide receivers and Hawkinson, tight ends. There was Jared Goff he dropped a few snaps and important third downs and even close to the goal line at the 10-yard line. So there were some mistakes that were made by this team that really cost them. And it was these guys that, they've got to be able to rely on. And that's been a problem of past Lions teams, is guys not making plays when it matters most. And that cost them this week already. So that's what worries me. It happened last year. They lost tons of close games because guys didn't make the plays when they were supposed to, whether it be a kicker, a quarterback, receiver, running back. But we learned this week, like I've been talking about, Swift is going to be the offense, and that's that's going to run through him. And so, what weeks, if he gets stopped, we'll really find out what this Lions team is made of.
And who you got winning this week, Grubb?
So I've got the Lions. I think this game, both these teams, I think, can get sloppy. The Redskins, obviously, or Redskins. Commanders didn't look good, like they struggled early in that game. But what sucks with having such a shortened, weird preseasons is now we're getting to see how it affects early games in the season. So, the Commanders didn't look good, but there was probably about 80% of the NFL teams this week didn't look good. And it's tough because it's almost like the third preseason game where they all kind of play a half or 3 quarters is like the first game of the season. So I've got them. I think they win, but I think it's a sloppy, close game. I think it's sloppy and close. I'm gonna go like 23-20 Lions.
Who you got, Wes?
I got the Lions as well. Those points as well, 23-20, seems about right.
What about you, Dave?
I think the Lions can win that game. I similar score, 24-17, something like that. Yeah, I like Detroit.
What about you, Adam?
This is one Detroit should win. They've got more talent. They're DeAndre Swift, DJ Chark, Amon Ra. They've got the talent there. They should take this. I'm going to put the score a little higher just because I really don't like either team's defense. Yeah. And in this case, a sloppy game I think is going to translate to a higher scoring game.
Okay.
So I'll go 33-30.
Very nice. What about you, Lane?
Welcome to the top row, Adam.
I'm going to go Detroit with this one as well.
Oh, everybody's on top.
In years prior, you've seen Carson Wentz go off and have a great game, and then he follows up with a pretty bad game. And he had a pretty decent game last week, so I think his inconsistency is going to get him this week. But I think, like I said, the Lions have a lot of confidence now, along with a lot of weapons. But I see this being about a one-score game, too, so like a 24-20.
Yeah, I want to be a contrarian here and say that the Commanders are going to win, but yeah, I don't think they have enough. I'm going to say 31-21 Lions. So it's a clean sweep here on the Lions game here, which is crazy.
Which means they're doomed.
Yeah, they're going to lose for sure now.
Now I'm going to pick against it. No, I picked against them last week, and so I'm just going to be right again this week.
Well, shout out here to my guy Rev Trev from Kempner Sports. He is a Packer fan, but here he is saying Bears are 1-0, and
I'm really excited.
I mean, it's Is it weird, Lane, to be looking up at the Bears?
It sometimes happens early in the season like that, but it's only about a one step on the stairs up, and then halfway through the season, we're the ones looking down saying, "Are you going to keep up?"
Hey, Ryan Poles, he said the Bears are going to take the North and never give back. So
we'll have to wait and see if that actually happens.
Well, I mean, you know how meaningful it is at the beginning of the season if you pull up the playoff picture right now, you have the Dolphins as the number 1 bye seed in the AFC and the Vikings as the number 1 bye seed in the NFC. So there you go. I mean, that tells the whole picture of the season.
Well, and Rev Travis says, how in the world did they beat the 49ers? Well, you missed it. Justin Fields is well on his way to the Hall of Fame with his amazing performance in the rain.
Yes.
And Darnell Mooney is also the second coming of, I guess the Bears really don't have a wide receiver to
Brandon
have a
Marshall.
second coming. Yeah. Brandon,
Tom Waddle, I guess, would be the best pick.
probably. Yeah.
That's rough. That's
Yeah.
rough.
How
it's
about
rough.
this Walter Payton status? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Hey, Walter Payton's number 4 on the
That's what
all-time
I'm
Bears.
saying. He's one of the top receivers of all
He
time.
is.
You taught us
Yeah, I
that.
was going to say,
That's
he's
true.
right up there.
That's true. Well, this has been a lot of fun, guys. Definitely appreciate everyone coming on. Adam, where can everyone find you?
I am at Adam Kernick on Twitter. You can hear me every Monday night on Spreaker, and then it gets rebroadcast onto Spotify and a bunch of other podcast hosting sites from there. Chi-Town Weekly is the name of the show. Monday nights, 7 Central. I tweet it out every week before the show. It's a lot of fun. Do Bears and then also Cubs, White Sox, Sky, Bulls. I even occasionally get into the college stuff.
Don't say White Sox right now. That's ugly.
That's yeah.
You're telling me I've got a hat poking through right there. Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun.
Well, all those teams you just mentioned, everybody in the rest of the panel threw up a little bit in their mouth. So
Hey, that's all right. As long as we're first place Bears. So, Lane, where can everyone find you again?
On Twitter, you can find me at LHankins4. You can see me scrolling down at the bottom there. That's pretty much my same socials for everything. If you want to follow me on TikTok and see the fun behind the scenes videos that I'll be making all season and give me hate when the Packers lose to your teams like the Vikings fans are doing right now, you're more than welcome to do that too. And I just wanted to add real quick, if you guys remember the throwaway pass that Kirk Cousins had in the red zone that drilled a security guard in the back of the end zone, I had an opportunity to catch that pass, and I probably should have at least attempted for that guy's sake because he got drilled hard. But instead, I had a camera in my hand, and I just watched it whiz right past me.
Kind of
Nice.
like the rest of the Packers wide receivers.
Oh,
Got him.
Grubb, where can everyone find you again?
you can find me on Twitter at Gridiron Grubb. You can find me here weekly on Wednesdays, and haven't re-kicked my own podcast, but you can find me at Gridiron Grubb on Twitter and still Spotify, YouTube, all those things, and here weekly on Wednesday nights.
Awesome. And Wes, thanks again for joining us. Where can you find you?
Yeah, on Twitter at Wesley A. Johnson.
Awesome. And you, Dave, as well. Where can we find you?
At Viking Dave 18 on Twitter, and then I do the fantasy football show once upon a Sunday. So come see me there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, guys. Once again, this is Freezin 4 NFC North podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thanks again.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
good night,
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks,
all
everyone.
right. Have a good one.